Postcards from the Edge by Carrie Fisher. Day 6. This is hard. I feel like I've got bugs flying around inside of me. I called my friend Wallace today, and I tried to get the operator to say, "Collect call from hell, will you accept the charges?" After not feeling anything for years, I'm having this feeling festival. The medication wears off and the feelings just fall on you. And they're not your basic fun feelings either. These are the feelings you've been specifically avoiding. The ones you almost killed yourself to avoid. The ones that tell you you're something on the bottom of someone's shoe and not even someone interesting. I talked to my agent and ended up in tears, which is not my favorite presentation of myself. Crying to my agent. I tried very hard not to, but I didn't have a choice. I've used up all the not cry I was issued at birth. Now, it appears, it's crying time. I talked to my mom briefly. I was afraid that she'd be mad at me for messing up the life she'd given me, but she was very nice. She said a great thing. I told her I was a miserable here, and she said, "Well, you were happy as a child. I can prove it. I have films." What went wrong between what she gave me and how I took it? Day 7. How old do you have to be to get past caring? Sid looked over at me during lunch and said, "You look so unhappy." I was sort of startled, since the picture of myself that I carry around in my wallet of a head is a peppy, happy, go-crazy gal. I keep my eye on this picture when evidence to the contrary is all around me. How could I have gotten all this so completely wrong? I'm smart. I guess I used the wrong parts of my brain, though. The parts that said, take LSD and painkillers. This is a good idea. I was into pain reduction and mind expansion. But what I've ended up with is pain expansion and mind reduction. Everything hurts now, and nothing makes sense. Day 8. Trauma in Drug Ward 6. Irene got kicked out of the unit for smoking dope in her room. She offered some to Carol, the agent's wife, and Carol came to me crying and asked me what she should do. I told her we should turn Irene in, so we told Stan, the therapist who was on duty. Stan called Irene in, and she had this real defiant look on her face, like she'd been caught doing something noble for her country, and now she was going to be killed for it. Carol was crying, and I was sitting and holding her hand. Stan said, "Irene, we hear you've been smoking dope." Irene said, "Well, I didn't know where I was going to be when I moved out of here. If I was going to go to a halfway house or whatever, and I was confused, so I smoked dope." Stan said, "There are 1,000 excuses, and finally, no reasons to do drugs. Most of the people in here share the desire to seem cool. They can be aching from heroin withdrawal, but ask how they are, and they'll say, 'Pretty good, man, hanging in there.' The answer comes too quickly, and hovering over a grin, a look of desperate loneliness gazes across the abyss. The only thing worse than being hurt is everyone knowing that you're hurt." Essentially, I could have died, not only this time, but probably several times, forgetting how much I took and when I took it, not to mention why I took it. Was I celebrating or drowning my sorrows, or celebrating my sorrows? The junkies were up in arms this morning. Half of them wouldn't speak to Daryl and me because we snitched on Irene. The other half thought it was pretty stupid for anyone to have smoked dope at a drug rehab. They had to call a special little group session to diffuse things. These aren't people with a good handle on their emotions, and without their chemical coping skills, it's every man for himself. It doesn't run hot and cold here. It runs hot and hotter. Bart, the homosexual triple Scorpio, called me an asshole in the ping pong room. It turns out Irene got the dope from one of the cleaning men who she was fucking in the stairwell during lunch. My kind of people. Day 10. 3 new people checked in today. Marvin, a retired bus driver in his 50s, is probably here for alcoholism. Wanda is a heroin addict who says she's a model and brought the makeup to prove it. And Mark is a crazy kid from Vacaville. I don't know what his drug of choice is, but I don't think it matters anymore. This is a cross-section of village idiots from all over the state. Everyone you ever would have thought was too loaded at a party is in one place. After group, Bart apologized for calling me an asshole and told me a story about the time that he spilled amyl nitrate on his testicles and his balls melted into the sheets, and he had to take the sheets and his balls to the hospital and have them separated. I told him it was a great idea for a TV movie. We had lunch and watched The Outer Limits. Drug addicts pretty much all have the same taste in shows. Science fiction and MTV. It's so bizarre. Everyone is acting like where we are is sort of normal, and we're in a drug clinic. Day 11. The new people came out of detox today and joined our group. Marvin said he wasn't an alcoholic, but he likes it here. He thinks all of us are interesting. It's like he's on a field trip for psychology today, or a segment of bloopers, plumpers, and bleepers, where they sent a healthy person to blend in with a ward full of addicts, just to see if anybody notices. Wanda was in the hospital recovering from a suicide attempt, carbon monoxide in her car. She called her dealer to bring her heroin because she couldn't sleep. She overdosed in the hospital, so they just transferred her down here. Mark was brought in by his parole officer directly from Vacaville. He's 19, and he looks like he's been on medication of some kind for most of his life. His blonde hair is greasy and parted down the middle, and he has very wild eyes. When he walks down the hallways, he hugs the walls, which Carl says is a prison thing. Mark has already been in jail for 3 years for resisting arrest and assaulting a police officer, and now he's in a drug clinic. His father came in today to bring him some clothes. He seemed disappointed at the way Mark's turned out. mom is probably sort of disappointed at how I turned out, but she doesn't show it. She came by today and brought me a satin and velvet quilt. I'm surprised that I was able to detox without it. I was nervous about seeing her, but it went okay. She thinks I blame her for my being here. I mainly blame my dealer, my doctor, and myself, and not necessarily in that order. She didn't like my hair very much, but pretended to. She said it was interesting. She thinks my life would work better if I got a new business manager. She washed my underwear and left. In the last few years, I've become an accepted eccentric at best and a fuck-up at worst. I feel like I've let people down if I take away the behavior they've grown accustomed to disapproving of. They try to discipline me. I refuse to be disciplined. They object. I'm objectable. We all know exactly what to do. Julie talked to us today about the family and friends of the addict, the Al-Anons. She said they become very caught up in the whole downward spiral of watching the alcoholic slowly die. It can become their whole lives, addicted to addicts. It's like an Al-Anon jumps out the window and someone else's life flashes in front of their eyes, said Sid. I wished I had said that, but then I probably will. I keep thinking that if I could marry somebody, this would be less embarrassing. I'm so jealous of Carol because she has a husband. It makes it seem less final that she's here. It gives her something to go back to, someone to be with, and someone to be. I have no situation that requires me to be more than I am. It just seems like when you get two people together, and one's in a suit and one's in a dress, how could they be unhappy? Unless their kid murdered another kid or something. I envy people who have the capacity to sit with another human being and find them endlessly interesting. I would rather watch TV. Of course, this eventually becomes known to the other person. I once told Jonathan that I would pay more attention to him if he got better programming. It always seems that in the beginning with someone, nothing they do could ever be wrong, except that they don't see you enough. And eventually, it gets to the point where you just want to say, get off my leg, okay? What's the difference? No one would marry me with this haircut